With more than 6,000 small and micro-cap companies listed, if you're looking for the next Apple at the earliest stage, then Channelchek truly is the orchard. The listed companies support Channelchek, so it's free for you, the potential investor, to gain access to institutional quality research from FINRA licensed analysts, advanced market data, industry reports, news, and a growing catalog of videos and webcasts. Make sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel and register for Channelchek so you're always up to date on what's going on at the small and microcap data place. Welcome to the C-Suite series presented by Channelchek and Noble Capital Markets. Noble is an SEC-registered, FINRA-licensed broker-dealer and the source of the equity research available on Channelchek. Today's interview features Palladium One Mining, OTC ticker symbol NKORF, TSXV ticker symbol PDM. Noble Senior Research Analyst Mark Reichman interviews Palladium One President and CEO Derrick Weyrauch. Visit channelchek.com or click the link in the description for Mark's research on Palladium One, as well as news and advanced market data. And now, here's Mark and Derrick.
Derrick, welcome.
Hi, Mark. Good to see you.
So Derrick, for viewers that may be unfamiliar, would you briefly describe each of your key projects?
Sure. Well, Palladium One is an exploration stage company, and we're really focused on discovering environmentally conscious metals, or metals for clean air, if you will. And one of our overriding objectives is to have a net zero carbon palladium or nickel mine. We have 4 projects, 2 of which are in Finland and 2 of which are in Canada. In Finland, our flagship project is the Läntinen Koillismaa, or LK project. It is a 38-kilometer contact or strike length that we have there. It's a disseminated sulfide target, and we estimate it to be one of the largest of its type in terms of being a palladium dominant project in a tier 1 jurisdiction. We have an existing resource there of about 1.2 million ounces palladium equivalent, and we're actively drilling on the project. Joining it, we have the KS project, and it's an earlier stage project that we are not focusing in on right now, but it is a completely different style of target. There we're looking for massive sulfide mineralization, very high grade underground copper and nickel mineralization. And in the meantime, we are focusing in on that type of mineralization in Canada, where we have 2 projects, the Tyko project and the Disraeli. Tyko is our lead project in Canada. It's a very early stage, but has some spectacular drilling results. Here we have 100% interest in the project. It's about 130 square kilometers in size, located in Ontario. And we, based on the discovery success we had just in November and December, we have intercepts of up to 10% nickel over 4 meters, basically at surface. Our deepest hole is 100 meters, and we're actively pursuing that project. And then, lastly, our Disraeli project, which is also in Ontario, looking again for very high grade underground massive sulfide potential. And it's a couple hours north of Thunder Bay, Ontario, or Lake Superior, if you will.
Well, Derrick, the price environment remains favorable for palladium, platinum, and nickel. What's your outlook for pricing?
We've seen a lot of disruption in the market recently as far as palladium is concerned, because we're seeing lower production levels in South Africa as a result of various challenges they have with reinvesting monies into their mines, and they've gotten very deep and expensive to operate. But what's really hit the news over the last number of months is that Norilsk in Russia, which is one of the largest producers of palladium, has had a lot of environmental problems. They've had a major fuel spill. Most recently, they had water egress into their mine, and they announced only a couple days ago that they would not be hitting their production targets. So their platinum group element production might be down this year about 700,000 ounces, which 500,000 of that is palladium. And in the market where the global mine supply is only 7 million ounces, it's a huge impact, especially in light of the fact that palladium has been in a deficit for over 9 years, and there really is no end in sight. And now we've got these additional hurdles. So I think the future is very good for palladium and platinum, and also for nickel and copper. You know, nickel and copper very much speak to the battery metals theme that we hear a lot about with regards to electric vehicles. And when you look at the demand forecasts there, they're quite robust. So I think long term for our entire metal suite, we are extremely well positioned and looking forward to the future.
So now Palladium One expects to complete the phase 2 drill program at the LK project, where you already have an existing resource this year. And so what has been accomplished thus far, and what's the plan going forward?
So at LK, we had our discovery there in the Kaukua South zone last mid-year of 2020. We got back in, we put 13 more holes into a large zone, about 4 kilometers in length. They all hit mineralization. So we now have a 4 kilometer long mineralized corridor. And our phase 2 program is all about infilling the drilling so we get enough drill density to be able to have a very good estimate of what that resource could be. And that 17,500 phase 2 program is defined to give us 100 meter grid spacing. And we should have it completed later this year. But given what we're seeing, we anticipate expanding the program, because Kaukua South looks like it could be going up to about 7 kilometers in strike length. And we actually have on site right now some geophysical crews to do some test work, both on the eastern and western extensions of Kaukua South. So it's really exciting. It's all about the drill bit right now and trying to define the economic mineralization, but at least we know we're in the right spot. And you know, the question that I get asked quite a bit is, well, if you've got roughly, you know, over 1 million ounces in Kaukua, how much are you going to have in this potentially 7 kilometer strike length? And the answer is, you know, I don't know right now, but back of the envelope suggests quite a few ounces, and you know, I can comment on it better once we've got more drilling done.
Now, will you begin a phase 3 in 2021?
I anticipate that we will, yes. I think the phase 2 will get done possibly sometime in the 3rd quarter of this year, and that we would then carry on into the phase 3, which would be really taking a look at the eastern and western extensions where we could pick up those extra kilometers that I referred to earlier.
Well, you know, I've admired the methodical approach the company has taken with respect to its exploration program. So can you talk a little bit about the role of geophysics work in planning the program, and maybe touch on, you know, these chargeability anomalies?
Sure. Well, you know, drilling is very expensive. So, you know, it costs roughly $250 for every meter you drill. And when you're looking at a 17,500 meter drilling program, or you know, the 24,000 meters that we're now looking at for this year, it's very expensive, and you want to drill efficiently and not just willy-nilly wherever you get an idea. So to de-risk the drilling exercise, various techniques have been developed. You know, geophysics is a catch-all for a lot of different techniques. And specifically, what we're doing here is what's called induced polarization, where what we're looking for is the electrical charge or conductivity that the rocks have underneath the surface. So you put a wire around a very large area and probes into the ground, and you charge it with electricity, and you measure how quickly things or the electrical charge moves. So if you can imagine, if you've got a copper wire, it moves pretty quickly. If it's a broken copper wire, it doesn't go across too rapidly. So what you're looking for is those rock units that have the sulfide mineralization that has that conductivity or that chargeability. And you know, I happen to have a paperweight here, and you're looking for stuff that perhaps looks like this. This is something people might recognize. It's chalcopyrite. But you know, there are other sulfide minerals as well that would respond. And so when you find these anomalies, the more intense they are, the more likely it has the sulfides and the mineralization you're looking for. So that's what you go and drill. And IP has proven extremely useful for us. At Kaukua, it was the tool used to find and drill out that resource, and that's why we employed it across our property on 5 major survey grids last year. And that's the basis upon which we are pointing the drills today and getting the success that we are getting.
So when do you expect to complete an updated technical report or resource estimate for Kaukua South?
I'm hoping it'll be in the first half of 2022. It's really going to be dependent on finding the extent of the mineralization. You don't want to just do a piece of it knowing it's open on the sides. So we are going to try and find the ends of the strike length. Maybe it's that 7 kilometers, don't know just yet. And as well, we're probably doing a couple other holes to look at potential depth extensions as well. So it's hard to say, but as soon as we have our hands wrapped around the endowment, we'll do the resource.
Now, a lot of attention is focused on Kaukua South, but how does Hako fit into the picture?
Yeah, so Hako is very interesting. When we started 2020, our intention was to do large survey grid down in that Hako area. And because there was a good data set of information based on historical resource that exists there, but it's not something that we thought had enough data to actually create a current or a proper 43-101 resource. And we started drilling down in that area and COVID hit, so we had to pull out. We ended up reorientating or pivoting our thinking and moved ourselves over to the Kaukua area because we get higher PGE values. And we've now just completed a drill program to do that infill work that we were talking about. So, that is another resource area. It's about 10 or 12 kilometers south of the Kaukua area. It's it's part of a 17-kilometer trend, and it factors very much so into what we're doing, and it has it is dominated by nickel and copper. So we see a huge ability there to grow quite a large endowment.
Now, before we move to your properties in Canada, Kaukua South, so that's really going to be a surface resource, but you also have this KS property, which I thought was kind of a feeder dike, and that was kind of expected to be maybe an underground resource. So can you kind of tie those two together and what your work suggests for KS?
Yeah, I think to answer that question, it's important to understand a little bit of the geology of it. So the KS project, if you think of a massive garden hose going through the ground, porpoising around, it's a conduit for the magma flow, and it goes across the country. And then it dispersed this big pancake, if you will, on the surface, which is the Koillismaa complex that ended up getting broken up and shifted around over 2.2 billion years. And it's the rim of that pancake that the LK project is all about. And that conduit or garden hose, if you will, is the KS project or part thereof that we believe the fed LK. So that hose is fairly deep and has never really been tested until recently. The Finnish Geological Survey is doing that testing right now. They're actually drilling a 3,000 meter deep hole just off of to the eastern border of our property. It's obviously too deep from a mining perspective, but it's going to provide some very, very interesting information that's going to be helpful. It's already doing that actually. They're at about 1,800 meters currently. But that hose has come up shallower where it's emplaced that pancake, if you will, at LK. And we've got that section of the property. It's a 20,000 hectare package. And given the metal tenors in the sulfides that we're seeing at LK, if we can find a unit in the KS project that's even 10 or 20, maybe 30% sulfides, it has the potential to be an extremely valuable rock on a per ton basis. So it's very much big game hunting, higher risk, higher reward, certainly. And the way we're approaching things is on a risk-based approach. Right now, it's lower risk and we can add value for shareholders quickest with the least amount of risk by just keeping the drills going at LK. So that's our focus. KS is a free carry for us at this point in time. So there's no need to spend a lot of money on it, and we're going to enjoy the benefits of the research work that the Finnish Geological Survey is doing. So it's a longer term opportunity for us.
So now turning to your properties in Canada, you've had really good results from Tyko. So what are your plans for Tyko and Disraeli?
Yeah, so following our drilling success, again, 13 holes, they all hit excellent mineralizations, our discovery holes in November and December of 2020 at Tyko. We embarked upon another round of geophysical studies, this time electromagnetics, and we went downhole, so we actually sent the sensors down the drill holes. We also did large horizontal loop on the surface, all with the intention to be able to model that conductivity or resistivity in the rocks to help define where that sulfide mineralization is that we want. So that work has been done, and we are in the process of interpreting all of that data currently. And we've also remobilized the drill rigs to Tyko. So we started drilling again yesterday, and we would anticipate doing perhaps another 2,000 meters of drilling to expand what we discovered, and hopefully get that done before the spring breakup occurs. But huge grade. And the other thing we're doing at Tyko is we're going to be doing a large airborne electromagnetic survey to look for more of these anomalies. At Disraeli, we finished our winter drill program. We just wanted a small program to do initial testing of the theory, if you will, and the EM picks that we got from Geophysics and testing that was done last year, and the results of that are pending. And we'll make a determination as to when we go back there once we get the results.
Now, the company recently closed a successful financing. Will some of those funds carry into 2022?
Yeah, for sure. We, the financing we did was a $15 million bought deal at 29 cents Canadian per share. And that gives us roughly $20 million total cash position, including in the money warrants. And we're anticipating, based on the current work program, that that'll carry us nicely into 2022, and that we would be ending 2021 with still about $8 million in the bank. Obviously, that may be reconfigured depending on the success we have at Tyko. We might want to spend more there, but we're not looking to go to market in the near future. So, I think somebody wanting exposure to both the precious metal and the environmentally conscious themes we have would need to look in the secondary market.
And lastly, what are some of the key elements that you think differentiate LK and Tyko from other PGE and nickel exploration projects that are being advanced?
Well, what's unique about LK is that we've got probably the top jurisdiction globally for mineral exploration. We've got potentially the largest of its type deposit in a first world jurisdiction globally. It's simple, open pit at surface with lots of expansion opportunities, which is what we're focusing in on. I'm not aware of another project that has all of those metrics, so I think that's what makes it unique when you're looking around the space. And it also obviously, as I mentioned earlier, has copper and nickel associated with it as well. So very interesting enhancements to the potential revenue stream. And on the if we go back to Tyko, there the issue is there are very few high-grade sulfide nickel projects to invest globally. There's very few. So you're dealing in a handful of situations, hard to find, and we've got spectacular grade at surface. Now we need to grow the tonnage, but boy, for first drill program, we've hit very well, and we're looking forward to hopefully expanding what we found at Smoke Lake, and as well as developing some other or some additional anomalies.
Well, Derrick, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you very much, Mark. Appreciate your time.
It's a really interesting interview, Mark. But I have a couple of questions here. Will electric cars have any bearing on the demand for palladium?
Well, longer term, they would, in the sense that copper and nickel and metals like that are probably, going to benefit more from electric vehicles, just given that they're battery metals. Palladium right now is used more in the emissions control systems, the catalytic converters. So I guess it really kind of depends on how quick, the public is to adopt electric vehicles and the penetration rate. So longer term, I think the answer would be yes. Right now, though, the palladium prices, have remained strong, and that's really been driven by, there have been a lot of regulations, especially in Europe, in terms of, emissions. And so manufacturers are really centered on using palladium in their catalytic converters and emission control equipment. Earlier, around 2000 and before, platinum was really kind of the metal of choice, for catalytic converters, but due to the differential in pricing between palladium and platinum and the effectiveness, between the two, they really switched over to palladium, and that's really what's driven. Now, I will say, in terms of the electric vehicle question, it's still used in the hybrid vehicles, and so many believe that, the hybrid vehicles will probably, be with us for a while, and that's kind of the transition to, full electric vehicle adoption. So I think it might take a little longer than most people anticipate to make that switch, but the short answer is yes.
So Mark, Derrick indicated production shortages and so forth, and which obviously is rising palladium pricing. Is there a risk at this point, as you mentioned earlier, of the prospect of maybe switching to platinum versus palladium?
Well, that is true. I mean, the shortages that he alluded to, that's real, and that's helped, palladium pricing. It's just not easy to find, these high grade deposits and bring, mines online quickly. And so it is a case of supply and demand. Originally, car manufacturers, as I mentioned, did utilize more platinum, and because of the price differential and other factors as well, there was more of a switch to palladium, and that has been kind of the near-term concern is would they switch back to platinum? And while there has been some switching, it really doesn't seem to be an issue anymore. Car manufacturers don't seem inclined to do that, notably because one, the cost of the vehicle and where, the cost of the palladium and the catalytic converter fits in is really not that significant enough for them to want to go back and change their processes, go back and try to meet, the emissions requirements. So it's really kind of a big deal to make the switch, and it really would have to be worth their time. And right now the indications are that it's not. They're more focused on, like you said, kind of advancing electric vehicles rather than, tinkering with the different metals in the emissions control equipment on the internal combustion engine vehicles. The other thing is, I think they've also realized that, if they were to do that, then really you've just kind of reversed the situation again. In other words, palladium prices might go down, but platinum prices would go up. Now, when you talk about a company like Palladium One, it's probably negligible because they also produce platinum, or they would produce platinum in terms of, that's in their resource base. So they're an explorer for platinum group elements, which includes palladium and platinum. And then also, and I didn't hit it in your earlier question, they do have the nickel project in Canada, and also, copper in their resources. So they're kind of positioned to serve multiple markets, which I think is a plus.
Mark, this was the first time that I ever heard about operating a mining operation in Finland. I was wondering, can you talk a little bit about the mining and what you're thinking about the mining jurisdiction in Finland?
Sure, and that's probably a theme that you've heard in some of these interviews that we've had with different companies in terms of how important the mining jurisdiction is. And what I would say is that Finland is kind of known for the resource base of their mineral endowment for platinum group elements. And surprisingly, to a lot of people don't realize it, but it is a very favorable mining jurisdiction. In fact, in the most recent Fraser Institute survey of mining companies, it ranked 10th out of 77 jurisdictions. And so one of the other benefits is the fact that it's a relatively small country. The infrastructure is pretty well developed, and so there's a lot of benefits to operating there. And it hasn't always been that way. I think it was prior to 1995, or until after 1995, it was harder for companies outside of Finland to do business there, and that environment has changed. So they still have substantial mineral resources that offer a lot of significant exploration potential.
And Mark, Derrick had mentioned about a mineral resource estimate. I think he said it was going to come out in 2022. What are your thoughts about the mineral resource estimate?
Well, right now at the LK project, they do have a mineral resource estimate, that's NI 43-101 compliant, that would suggest about 1.2 million palladium equivalent ounces, both in indicated and inferred resources. And so they're really trying to build on that. And right now, most of the attention is centered on Kaukua South, and they've had really fantastic drill results, most of which have been the results in terms of the grades have been pretty consistent with the grades in their existing mineral resource estimate. So he also mentioned that their ability to do more geophysical work to try to extend the strike length of Kaukua South from is very encouraging. So it's always kind of hard to say, but they're really kind of shooting to make this a multi-million ounce deposit. So right now, when we value the company, we've kind of assumed that they can kind of 3 times multiple on the existing resource base, under the existing program that's fully funded. So, that's the one thing about the exploration business. It's always kind of difficult to gauge, but right now, all the results of their drilling program have been very encouraging. So, we think that that's a reasonable target.
Well, thank you, Mark, and thanks for bringing the company to us. Thank you.
Thank you, Michael.
Thank you for joining us for this C-Suite interview presentation brought to you by Channelchek. Visit our YouTube channel for more interview content, as well as virtual roadshows and conference presentation replays. New content is added regularly, so subscribe below to stay up to date. Visit channelchek.com or click the link in the description to access equity research, news, and advanced market data on this and the 6,000 other small and microcap companies listed.